Welcome to another episode of Beyond Sunday, where we keep it real with faith in life because, as you all know, life be lifing. And as we always do, we do with myself, Julian Luke, and Pastor Thomas. And we have a special guest with us here today, a great friend of mine and an awesome person around this building, and just an all-around good guy. We have Tyler Brown. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man.
Good.
Good to be on.
Yeah.
Long time listener.
Good to have you. Long time listener or watcher?
First time caller, long time listener.
There we go.
Listener, man. I actually don't be watching that much.
You just throw it on in the background?
Yeah, just be in the background.
Got you. Okay. So look, today we're talking about something that every brother, chocolate folk, feels. All right. At some point. So we're talking about the pressure to prove. So, when you walk into certain spaces and you're feeling like, instantly like you got to prove something to somebody in that room. All right. And so I want to go ahead and start it out. So let me ask you all this. Do you all think that we ever really get to just be, or are we always performing for somebody's approval?
Man, of course you get to just be. It's just, that's one of them things where like the older you get, the more you stop caring about what other people think as much, right? You ever seen old folks at the cookout, like the uncles, and they be wearing whatever they gonna be wearing? You be like, "Oh, you ain't hot?" You be like, "Nah, I'm fly." Like this is what it is.
So you believe it's an age thing?
I do think it's an age thing because when I was in high school, I did want the kicks to like fit in with everybody. I wanted the Jabos, even though my dad didn't get me none.
Dang, Jabot jeans,
bro. I wanted all of that. I wanted the cereal jacket, the jackets that had like cereal like Kellogg's or whatever, or Reese's or whatever.
That was the thing.
Yeah, man, the little race jackets. I wanted all that. And I was like, looking back on it, it's like, for what? I just wanted to look cool in front of my friends. But now I'm older. It's like, man, I bought this t-shirt like $6. Like, I have a lessened desire to try to prove stuff to people. Now, when I go to work, will I peacock every once in a while? Yeah, I peacock. I'll put on some fly.
How about to ask, what you mean by peacock? So you mean by code switch?
Nah, it ain't even code switching. Like, well, I'll code switch from time to time, but like peacocking is like you put on your Sunday's best, or you put on some that's like fly, to where when they see you, be like, oh, that's an important person, right? Like a peacock walks in, and then they spread their feathers, and he's like, oh, look at you.
Gotcha.
So that's what peacocking is, right? So I put on something fly every once in a while for work, just so they know it's like, hey, oh, Tyler just entered the room type thing. But for the most part, like in everyday life, oh man, it just is what it is. You're gonna get what you're gonna get.
All right, Pastor Thomas, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Tyler. I don't know if it's a age thing or maturity thing where you just kind of reach a certain point where you just you don't really care. You care about other things, but you don't necessarily care about, proving something to somebody. Because if you're always trying to prove something to somebody, at some point, there's always going to be something else that you need to do. Like you're always having to try to achieve and push and get to the next level or get to the next thing. And at the end of the day, you can become exhausted. But I do recognize that, going into certain spaces, there are certain things that you can face just about assumptions that people make, stereotypes, microaggressions, all those kinds of things that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it, going into certain spaces, because like I'm, music educator. And so when we start thinking about the history of music and all that kind of stuff, it comes from Europe, and the European thought process is brought over here, and that's how we're educated. And then they try to say that, or more of the spaces are usually would say that good music or great music, when you're talking about band, college band, so on and so forth, comes from more predominantly white institutions than more HBCUs. And so when you see a black man, step into that space, you do kind of are put in a position to be able where you have to prove that you have the knowledge to be able to be in that room.
Right.
So we see that. I know I've seen that a lot as a music educator. I've known students, I've known colleagues of mine who graduated from HBCUs, and when they get into those spaces, they're like, small fish, big pond, and they're really scrutinized for, the places that they come from and the things that they've done. So yeah.
I mean, wouldn't that be the case no matter what? In any space you walk in, like when I walk into a soccer field, yeah, you got to prove that you know what you know.
Right, but do you think that that's because of the color of your skin? Because on average, the average soccer player isn't a chocolate person.
I don't know if I agree with that or not because it's a big world and soccer's the most popular sport in the world.
I do agree that that soccer is one of the most.
Soccer's a little different from.
But I'm just saying, like when I'm looking at soccer, if I'm watching soccer, even if I go get the PlayStation game, I don't see many people your color. That's all I'm saying.
Levels,
right. So,
but I will say this, right? No matter what, you still got to prove yourself. Like even the kid who walks in with the head shaved on one side, hair spiked on the other, and all the other stuff. He may look like he can play, but it ain't proven until the ball touches his feet, right?
Yeah, but I think the difference is how big of a deficit do I have to overcome in that situation, right? So if everybody has to prove something initially, everybody's deficit is not the same. So using your example of the kid who's got the shaved hair with spike, that deficit is not necessarily going to be the same as somebody whose hair is a regular haircut or appears in what somebody would consider a normal way of dressing. Right. But to go along with what you said, like the different spaces even for me, for example, like there is a stigma, even in the Christian world, that typically, especially Black Christians, or Black pastors, lack having, solid theology. Mm-hmm. And so, I can walk into spaces and there's an assumption that, okay, it's great to have you here. It's great. But the assumption is from a theological standpoint, I might not be as astute as another person because the assumption is that I'm coming from a background or from a place where theology is probably questionable.
Mm. Even with the doctorate?
Oh yeah, even with the doctorate. And when the doctorate comes out, when people learn, okay, well, he has a doctorate, then there is a different response to that, right? Like now having that title, people do respond differently. They begin to assume that, oh, okay, well maybe he does really know. And then my doctorate is from a PWI, so so then it's like, oh, okay, well he definitely knows.
And see that, and that's something going back to the music education world. It's the same way, right? So like if you get a doctorate in music, then it's like, all right, well, where'd you get it from? Mm-hmm. All right. And then, if depending on what you say is going to give you, the grounds for people to be like, oh, okay, yeah, he's good. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I just think it's funny. Like me getting my master's from Texas Tech gave me a little bit more upward mobility in music education versus if I would have gotten it from an HBCU or something like that.
That's real.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I think me being a Gen Xer that I appreciate, especially about, other generations, especially millennials and stuff, like when we were coming along, especially in corporate America and environments like that, we were very conscientious about everything we did in terms of how we dressed, how we presented ourselves, our hairstyles, everything. Yeah. Because, if we did something that was more relevant to our culture, that more connected to our culture, then that could potentially be a hindrance for us in our careers. And I really appreciate the fact that now more and more, especially when I see people in these different generations, they feel a greater freedom to be able to express themselves in terms of the way they dress and the way they wear their hair, and all those types of things. And I really think that I really can appreciate that there's greater form of expression because of that. Because before it was just something that we wouldn't do because we knew it could hold us back.
Yeah. So where do you all think that we got the pressure to prove ourselves from? Like, do you think it's cultural or historical, or is it personal pride? Like, what do you think?
Probably generation to generation, right? Because I know my dad told me, like, hey, so you represent the family name. He's like, everywhere you go, people like will know, especially when you're younger, like people identify you by your people. And so in order to not be an embarrassment to my own family, in order to be like, oh, in our household, we were raised right? It's like I couldn't just do whatever. You have to hold the line, hold the standard. Yeah. And so like that just kind of trickles into other places in life, like on the soccer field, in the band, in school, right? You don't come home with bad grades because like your brothers came before you and your brothers did good, so you expect
that's the expectation,
right? Yeah. Your brothers didn't misbehave in class, and all of a sudden I'm getting calls for you. Oh, come on, we got to talk, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like that the way I was raised, at least, like that kind of trickles down into me. It's like, well, it's like we got to hold the line. There's a standard, and the standard must be met pretty much at all times. Like there are no days off.
So that's for you. It's more of a family thing than a cultural thing.
Well, keep in mind, my culture is somewhat different only because I was raised in the country, right? So I was like, I was literally raised where everybody knew me by my last name. It's like, oh, that's Willie Brown's son. Shout out to Willie Brown. That's Willie Brown's son. It's like, oh, that's Miss Brown's son, right? My mama was a teacher. Like my dad was a blue collar man, and so it's like, you know, people knew. And I had two other brothers who were both older than me and literally did everything before me. So yeah. So you can't drop the bar because you there. You the third born. If anything, you got to raise the bar. Yeah.
I think for me is both, you know, historical and from a family's perspective, because I can definitely identify what Tyler's saying about the expectation about how you present yourself and what you're doing out in the world. But at the same time, you know, my mother very early on taught me that I was going to have to work twice as hard just to be able to achieve half as much as my peers. And so she kind of set the stage for me to understand that this was going to be a push for me. And so she wasn't wrong. Like there were a lot of pushes along the way, because I grew up in a predominantly white community, pretty much from 8th grade all the way through high school. And that's probably where I saw like the biggest evidence of what she was saying about that I would have to be twice as good. I think the historical side of it really has to do with these kind of perceptions, especially about black men. You know, the perception that we are violent or aggressive or angry, or, you know, the hypersexualization of black men, all those types of things that you have to kind of contend with when you go into different spaces, because people have these preconceived notions about who you are or who they think you are. In my time in corporate America, I saw a lot of that, like overcoming those things. Like I literally had, I had a boss one time who was a senior VP, and he brought me in his office. We were talking about something, and he looked at me and he was like, I really don't know what to do with you. And I was like, I don't understand. And he was like, I don't know how to relate to you because you're so very different than what he thought I should be like. So he didn't know how to handle that. And so I over the years, I've seen many people deal with similar situations like that, just going into certain spaces and dealing with historical things that are still present even in different work settings.
Yeah. I think, and I guess this is more of I don't know if it's more of a statement or a question, but, I think sometimes the historical stereotypes that have been placed on us as black men can actually make us work harder in certain spaces that we go into because of the perception that other people have of us.
Right.
I see it I've seen it in a lot of spaces that I've stepped into, and when people find out that I'm not like that,
right,
it's like, wow, okay, you cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've had friends who told me stuff like, oh, so, they've had people that tell them like, oh, you're one of the good ones. What? You know what I'm saying? So like, right. I kind of question sometimes the perception that we give out and then the perception that media portrays on us.
Sure.
And I also question sometimes, do we play into those stereotypes that makes things harder for us? And then, sometimes we cry, and I feel like we cry wolf sometimes when we like, well, if we would have set ourselves up in a better way instead of feeding into the stereotypes, then I think that sometimes we probably would be in a better space of not having to prove all the time. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's just my thought there.
Yeah, I mean, what was that? The Jackie Robinson movie with Chadwick Boseman? It was a good representation of that. It's like, I reckon when you watch that movie, it's like I recognize like it feels like he's working twice as hard because he's dealing with the societal pressures and like society as a whole. But in terms of like the actual baseball he was doing, so he was doing pretty much the same thing everybody else was doing, but the pressure was really coming from society, right? Mm-hmm. And so having to deal with that mentally and build that mental like toughness, and then I don't know, it's an interesting perspective because sometimes I look at it like in terms of doing twice the amount of work. I don't know if I've done more work than like people in my field, like in the STEM field. Mm-hmm. I feel like in order to reach a certain level, a certain amount of work has to get done. But I do recognize that, yeah, you're right. There are some societal like things that happen. Like HBCUs typically like corporate America tier schools. So
Right.
if your school appears on TV in any way, shape, or form, usually you're like a tier 1 school, right? Or like, you know, if your program has done something like excellent in the past couple years, and it didn't have to be recent. Like you have like a tier 1, tier 2 situation. But if you're in HBCU, typically you're in a tier 3 situation. But despite that, you know, in order to be good at whatever discipline, there's a certain amount of work that has to be done. And I don't know, man, those societal pressures, I do feel what you're saying in terms of like, it's like, hey, man, these are things we have to go through. But I guess I haven't encountered somebody who's fixed their mouth to be like, hey, it's like, man, you want
a good one.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've had similar,
Yeah.
you know, similar things like, you know, or trying to figure out who to compare me to, or looking at me saying, you're really an enigma. And I'm like,
You like Tupac,
Yeah,
man.
I haven't experienced that.
just kind of dealing with these kind of random, kind of odd statements that kind of come out of nowhere. But when part of the working twice as hard, too, is not necessarily the amount of work that you have to do, but sometimes it's the way that you have to approach the work that you do. And sometimes it's the amount of accuracy and attention to detail that you need to give.
You don't get as many opportunities to mess it up.
Yeah, you know, because the assumption is that sometimes the assumption can be, I should say, that your work is going to be substandard. So the expectation is, oh, you went to this particular school, so, you know, yeah, you do have the education, but, you know, what quality is it? And can I expect the same quality of work? And so when you're doing that work, knowing that whatever work you're doing is going to be scrutinized or criticized, then you may be working twice as hard in terms of making sure that it's accurate, timely, you know, and all those types of things. And whereas somebody else may just go in and do the work, not that they do it sloppily, they just may go in and do the work and not even consider that additional weight that it carries.
Yeah, that's a good point. Having all the I's dotted, T's crossed.
Yeah.
Yep. On time.
Okay. So how do you all balance wanting to achieve excellence without letting it become your entire identity?
That's an interesting one. I don't know, man. Like, excellence is great. It's a great bar to try to achieve, but I mean, the reality is excellence is different for everybody. And sometimes good is good enough. I guess that's my.
I learned you think that a long time ago.
Good is good enough, and if I can hit excellent, awesome. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people be like, I'll be like, man, that was good, and they'll be like, man, that was amazing. This, that, and I was like, man, all right, we got different bars, but it's cool, right? It's a good thing. Sometimes good is good enough, and I've just kind of grown to the point where it's like I need to achieve good, and then we can try to work our way to something better than good. But I'm not gonna try to swing it out the park every single time I'm up at bat. Sometimes I just need to get on base, and I'm cool with it.
I like that.
Yeah, I think for me it's probably a little bit different because you know, over the years of time for me and from where I started from and where I came from, I think I always felt a sense of pressure to always try to achieve and get to the next level. And it got to the point where I was always trying to move to the next level, like, right? So I'm always trying to do the next thing. So I got this degree, let me get another degree. I got this experience, let me get this experience. I got this certificate, let me get that certificate. You know, so much so till, you know, when I finished, you know, my doctorate, my wife was like, all right, you done.
You done.
She was like, you're done. Like, you can't be out here just collecting degrees now at this point. Because there was a period of time where even after I got, you know, my doctorate, I was like, well, maybe I need to go back and get another one. Like, maybe I need to go back and get something else. And it was like, for what? Like, what are you trying to do? Because
what were you trying to do?
I mean, it was really about like continuing to achieve, to prove that I'm worthy to occupy any space that I'm in from the standpoint of my skill, my experience, and everything. Like all of the credentials that I felt like I needed to have to come with it. But that was more in my own head than it wasn't somebody else. It was just more in my own head. So to your point, it was something that I had to reckon with in myself, you know, to be like, hey, you don't You really don't have to add anything else to this, right? You've done more than enough at this point.
So everything that you said, I felt really resonates with me. But I have a question. So, do you think? So you grew up with both parents, right?
Yeah.
You grew up with a single mother.
Yes.
I grew up with a single mother.
Right.
And I feel like me and you are. That's the same way I thought coming up, right? Because I and this has nothing to do with my family dynamic, right? Because my mom was awesome. She was a teacher. She took care of me and my brother phenomenally. She's at home right now. Hey, Mom. But I just always had the feeling that I needed to keep going, to get something, to keep achieving, to go to the next level.
100%.
And to me, I'm still wired that way.
Right.
And I
I
don't
always
know.
felt like something was chasing me though.
Yeah. No,
Like
I get
something
it.
if I stopped, I was gonna get overtaken by something, so I had to keep pushing.
Yeah. It's because, like, for me, it was, all right, I went to school in Virginia. My mother wanted me to go into school in Houston. And I was like, nah, I'm not coming home. I'm staying here and I'm gonna get this degree. Then I got the degree. Then I was like, all right, now I'm gonna go get this band director job. Then I got the band director job. Then all right, I need to go to a high school now. Then I got to the high school. Then it was like, all right, now I need to go get my master's. So I went and got my master's. Now I need to teach at a college. So I went and taught at a college. It's like, it just didn't
Isn't
end.
that the regular career? Well, not regular.
Not
Isn't that
necessarily.
but that's not a far-fetched career path for somebody who's getting a music degree, though, right?
That's not necessarily
not
true.
necessarily
There are
true.
a lot of people who get music degrees and are happy with teaching middle school and will stay there forever.
Right.
Okay.
There are some that teach high school and will stay there forever.
Right.
Got you.
Right. I think even for myself, when you talk about that, like that definitely is what I've done. It's been always 18 different things going on at one time.
That's me.
Right. So, I'm working on one master's, finishing that master's, but then now I'm an adjunct professor at the same time. And then finish that master's, adjunct professor, roll into a doctorate doctoral program. So just doing all of these things, because I always felt like there's something chasing me. And if I slow down, then I'm gonna be falling behind.
That was me.
And it wasn't that I was looking at anybody around me trying to do it. It was completely in my own head, because I was like, if I'm going to do this, then I know that I've got, because my mom's voice is still playing in my head, I got to be twice as good. And this is all a part of being twice as good.
Yeah.
Knowing that the outcome is going to be only half as much as what somebody else would do.
Yep.
Right. And
That's
so
me.
that was the push. It was just always there. So every room that you step into, there's a sense of, okay, if I'm going to sit at this table, I got to have everything that's required to sit at this table. Now, I will tell you the downside, the not the downside, but the backside of that now is I get into spaces and I sit at certain tables and I'm in certain situations now and I'm doing certain things where people will say to me, oh, I didn't think I could sit at the table with you, or I didn't think I could do these things with you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, because you've got all these things, like you've got all the experience, you got all this education. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not that dude. But in my head,
You kind of are that guy. I ain't gonna
But see,
lie,
but again, to you, so it's really interesting to hear this, because I feel the same way. Like, I don't know if it's a humbleness about you, but I have the same problem, right? Because a lot of people are like, when I look at the past, or look back at my past, or I talk to somebody who's known the stuff that I've done, they be like, dude, man, you were a heck of a band director, or man, you were a heck of a arranger. I'd be like, I don't, dude, I just did my job. I mean, it wasn't anything that big. I don't think it was that big. And like, I have friends now who are like, you really downplay yourself a lot. And I'm like,
I will say that you do downplay yourself a lot.
I don't think so. I just be like, I just do what I'm supposed to do.
Dr. Thomas may not want us to call him Dr. Thomas, but at least he'll be like, yeah, I do have a doctorate.
Yeah.
You have a whole master's, and every once in a while, like, people just know you and just not even, you'll be operating in your field, this, that, and the other. People have no idea.
I mean, it's
You
just,
just
it's
drive
just
us
what
like,
it
yeah, I
is.
got a master's. Like, you have a what? Like,
Yeah, I
sir,
don't know.
you are more qualified than most.
Why do
in
people
that
feel
field.
like that? Like, I don't know. Maybe y'all need to counsel me. Why is that? I need to make sure that I let everybody know that I have
It's
a
not
master's.
the fact you have to let everybody know that you have a master. Like, I have a master's, and it don't come up very often either, right?
Right.
However, when I'm in with my peers, like things like this do come up,
Right.
Because you with your peers, they'll understand what that means. They'll understand, like, they'll value that. Because they know what it takes to achieve it, and they know it's not easy, right?
Yeah, it's funny on my other podcast. So y'all, we just gonna have a time with me right now. But on my other podcast though, there's a guy. His name is Justin, and he came on one day. And he was like, "Luke, you really need to start talking about the stuff you've done because I don't think people recognize how good you really are." And I'm like, I don't feel the need to do that. I don't know. I just don't.
But you feel the need. You feel like something's chasing you, but you don't feel the need to reflect on what you've overcome.
I know how I personally reflect. Like I can have that conversation with my wife. Like me and my wife talk about it all the time, and I say, "Listen, I know what I've done. I've taught drum corps. I've had a really good career, and I feel proud of it. Like I can go back and watch videos and say, man, I really did that. But for me, I feel like I'm being boastful. Like I don't. That's just not me. That's not my thing.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, Tyler. Like that's been a struggle for me in the sense that, like, head down, always working, always pushing for the next thing, always doing this next thing, and working on the next project or, doing the next opportunity or whatever the case may be, and never really just stopping for a moment to be like, oh man, you really have done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think of myself as being the guy. So like even in the things that I do, whether it be in counseling or whether it be in ministry or whatever, if somebody calls me like, hey, I need this, this, and this, and I'm like, oh, well, let me introduce you to this person. They were like, well, no, I'm calling you. And I'm like, well, I'm not the guy. And they're like, no, yeah, you actually are the guy. Yeah. And so for me, it's just been, the push has been just like, you got to keep pushing, got to keep grinding, got to keep proving, got to keep doing all of these things to kind of keep yourself moving forward. Because if you don't, like, something's going to overtake you. Something's going to.
So I guess
that's me. Yeah.
I guess the fear, I guess it's not a problem. The thing is, if you're continuing to push and you're continuing to be, what's the word? When you better yourself, self-improving, whatever, self-improvement. Yeah. At what point do you disseminate that information to others who would need it, right?
Yeah, so now you ask that's a very important question, because for me now at this particular point, in my career, 35 years in ministry, 20 plus years as a pastor, just all the things that I've been able to do, this is the time when I should turn around and start like
at the 30 mark. I would argue that at the 10, 15.
I should have been, right? But your point,
you don't think about that at that time. You still trying to.
I didn't think I was in my head. I'm not qualified. Like I'm not there.
Yeah.
Like I'm not there to do that, right? So there's this continuous. There's like this continuous drive.
Yes.
This continuous push. And it's something that, like, I talk to other guys around the church too, who they're still doing the same thing. Like they've accomplished amazing things, and they are still like grinding, pushing, trying to get to the next thing, just constantly trying to do that without sitting back and enjoying the accomplishments, which is really good. Like my wife has really been big on pushing me to be like, hey, you need to chill. Yeah. And enjoy your accomplishments, because what you've accomplished is amazing.
Well,
like you need to slow down.
It's cool to strive for more, but also you have to recognize, like, every time you achieve something, like, behind you there's the good and the bad. Like, right. By attacking that problem, you had to say no to some things, and by achieving that objective, now you can do other things. Right? It's like, when you turn around, you're like, oh man, it's like I miss this, I miss this, I miss this, I miss this, but I do have this. At some point, you have to take what you have and be like, I'm not gonna miss these things anymore. I'm just gonna kind of go forward, right? So what what a Jap used to say. My grandpa used to talk about it, and I was just like, oh, I'm doing this, and this. He was like, that's good, son. But what about the dead bodies behind you? I was like, what you mean dead bodies behind me? It's like pretty much every time you open a door, you shutting it for somebody else, right? And every time that you're achieving something, you're not helping other people. So unless you're taking people with you, then unless you're taking people with you, what's the point of you having everything if you can't help out the people around you, right? But I mean, that's just, Grandpa was a different beast. He was a different animal.
No, I mean that I think that speaks to the value of, once something has been proven, then what do you do with what's been proven? Like how do you share that with other people and help to move them along too?
Community, right? Like when we have our ministry meetings and stuff, I'm the one who talks a lot, probably because I'm the one who has like almost 15 years of ministry experience, at least in the room, or at least at this church in the room, right? And so like I feel like And not to be braggadocious, maybe this is boastful, right? But if it is, it is. If it didn't, cool.
Right.
I got 15 years experience at this church doing ministry.
Right.
I feel like my voice should have a little more weight.
Mm-hmm.
And that at least, even if we don't follow it,
Right.
it needs to be heard.
Yes.
Right. And yeah, it's like every once in a while that doesn't happen. That's cool. But at the end of the day, I know I need to speak because I do have those experiences, positive or negative, because everything ain't really work out the way it was supposed to. But like I still have to like use that experience, even though sometimes it was just good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were excellent, but most of the time it was just good enough.
Right.
And you know, you kind of live with it. Even in soccer, like we won in college, or we won in high school, the state championship. We won, I made it to college. I played in college. I actually hated soccer in college. This is where I stopped, right? But despite that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I still have all this experience. It's like, I feel like if any parent should be one of the people that's, like, coaching, it should be me. But then when you have people who are like, oh, Mr. Brown, it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? It's like, I'll answer your question. But the reality is, like, I got, like, 30 years experience in this. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, I hear you out, you can hear me out, but I'm pretty sure I have more authority on the topic than you do. So it's like we can have whatever conversation need to be had, and this, that, and the other. That may be braggadocious, it may not, right? But it's a matter of you achieving things, right. And then you have to disseminate the information because.
No, I think it's confidence.
To hold on to it is to kind of hold people.
No, I think it's confidence in your experience.
Right.
You know, I think you're confident in the experience you've had, your skills, what you've learned, what you can certainly share with somebody else.
Correct.
And I think there's value in that.
But I mean, even if I use your example, I mean, that's still somebody coming up to you and asking you. You're not just walking out and saying, I did this. I mean, but if somebody comes to me and they ask me, I'll have a conversation. Like I get people who will text me, you know, or shoot me a message and say, hey man, like I need you to listen to my band. Tell me X, Y, and Z. You know, I trust your opinion. All right, cool. Ain't no problem with that.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not just going out there saying, man, I did this, so and running down a list.
My counter to that is if you did say that more often, if you like, I did this, and this, there would be more people who would come to you that you could actually help out using the experience that you had.
I mean, that may be true. I don't know if
that's 100% true.
I don't know if I have a bandwidth to be able to take all those people.
And that's true too.
So,
but at least you're an option, right? Mm-hmm. And then here's the crazy thing about it: you have a network, so even if you can't do it, you can probably point them in the direction of somebody who could.
I always can point people in the direction.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? But it's great. It's great to continue to achieve it more. I'm just saying, like at some point, you got to disseminate that information. That's right.
That's fair. All right. Let's switch gears here. So be honest. How many of you all, or how many of us actually, have ever said, "I'm good," when deep down we were running on fumes?
Oh yeah, man. You got to. That's part of it, right?
Does it have to be?
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think people really care if you're doing all right or not. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think the people who care most about you actually would.
I mean, I'll tell my wife. Like, he should know how I'm feeling pretty much. Like, she gets the unfiltered, like, Tyler is like, man, I'm tired, boss. You know, like.
So even,
so. Get that, but, like, the general public does not care if I'm doing good or if I'm doing this, you know. It's like, if I'm running on fumes, if I'm on ibuprofen and Tylenol and I'm barely functioning.
I don't know. I agree to some extent because I think now we built a society where people have been more empathetic.
What can you do?
You know,
people say they're more empathetic, right?
People say it, but that's what I'm saying. I think we built a society now where people are saying they're more empathetic. So I think that they would care.
But I think to also add to that, the question becomes: is it okay? Is it really okay for men? Is it okay for black men in general, to say they're not okay? You know, from a societal standpoint, is it not unusual for us to hear women say those things and us to have a more positive response than for men? Mm-hmm. Or do we generally say men need to,
suck it up,
toughen up, whatever, and deal with it? And I think, not to diminish the experience of black women too, they may have some of that suck it up and deal with it too. But, generally speaking, from a gender standpoint, do we tend to expect men to just deal with whatever it is and just keep going?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the case. I think for the most part, it's like, I feel like for the most part, men as a whole just have to kind of power through it, right? And it's not because, people, I don't think people really care about how men feel, this, that, and the other. However, it's like even if somebody did, there's not much they can do to dig you out of that hole, right? On their own merit. Like if you about to miss your rent, this, that, and the other, they might be able to hold you off for like maybe like a really, really good friend might be able to hold you off for 1 month.
Right.
But it's like at the end of the day, like you gotta kind of figure it out. And it's unfortunate, but the reality is like that whatever's chasing you, that's probably what's chasing you.
Possibly.
The responsibilities of failure, right?
Right. But I mean, I think men in general, the pressure is just always on you anyway.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I've had this conversation with my wife quite a few times, and I've seen it in some other spaces too. But I always say, like, if it all falls, it falls on me. And that's just I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunate, how we want to look at it, but it's a reality, because the truth of the matter is that, you know, if something happens, nobody's going to turn to Keisha and be like, so what you do? You know, they're going to look at you. And so, you know, I think that's also the mindset too.
Yeah. And I think it's what we called to do, right? You led by God. It's like you're supposed to go through these struggles, and sometimes these struggles are very public. Sometimes these struggles are very private. But I mean, God's giving you every tool you need to kind of get through it. The unfortunate part is He ain't giving you no timeline on how long it's gonna take.
That's true.
So you know, you have to get through it. Sometimes that does involve talking to people though. Like you can't just go through it alone, especially if you're going through something really heavy. And kind of like what you were talking about with the band people, like they struggling. Hey man, I need you to watch my band and tell me what's up. It's like sometimes you do need to go to somebody and be like, hey man, this is what I'm going through. I'm trying to figure it out. Like, have you been through that? You know somebody who can go through it, and they can give you some solid advice that can get you through. So in that standpoint, I do think people do care, because like people will give you words all day, this day. You know, people give you words. Some people can give you an opportunity, but for the most part, I just don't know if people. I don't know.
But going back to like the question, do you think we hide ourselves from our significant other sometimes too?
I would hope not. Now, whether people do or not, you know, every relationship is somewhat different. So, I mean, some people have wives who will probably chastise them for it, and so yeah, they probably would hold that in. I don't have a wife like that. I think Keisha hear me out. Keisha will comfort me. She'll do whatever she can to help me through whatever. And hey, man, God gave me a good one. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's beautiful.
I can't say that's true for everybody though. So, you know, some people have a little more difficult than others for sure.
Yeah, I've seen it in a lot of places where a lot of men have definitely said that they will tell their wives they're good, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is kind of to your point, to try to avoid being chastised. You ain't no real man, or you know, or them feeling
disappointment, right?
Right. Or the other side of that, where the woman feels like they have to step in.
Yeah.
And that man may not want them to because they feel like it's their responsibility.
And that's ego, like pride, ego, right? Disappointment. Yeah. Those are all things that, you know, as a guy, you just you have to muscle through that, right? Yeah. It may not feel good to be like, hey, babe, I just lost my job. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But if that's what's gotta happen, that's what's gotta happen. As a guy, you just gotta take that and run and be like, man, that really sucks. It's like, I didn't like that. But you gotta go through it, right? It may not feel good to be like, hey kids, you know, this Christmas, it's like we're going to the Dollar Tree. That may not feel good. That may not be the thing that, you know, you want to advertise. But if it's what you got to do for the betterment of the family, it's what you got to do.
I mean, you ain't got to tell the kids you're going to the Dollar Tree. You
just
show up with the joint. Hey, Dollar Tree Christmas wrap, Dollar Tree toys, you good. Hey, they don't know, shoot.
And like, it is an ego hit, but sometimes you got to put your ego in that little box, the box, and be like, hey, this is what it's going to be for
I agree.
Whatever timeline is going to be, you know. And that ain't easy. I say it, but it's just not easy.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
But I will say this: there are some people who do care. I know, Pastor, you are one of the people who care. It's like you can usually tell, because it's like if you tell somebody something and they check up on you, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like when you do the prayer requests. I put prayer requests in our church group chat, and I usually do check up on people and be like, "So how did it go? Like what happened? This, that, and the other." So you can tell, like some people do care. And there is a comfort in there. I'm not gonna say nobody cares, but I will say if you just walk up to a random person in Costco or wherever, he's like, "How you doing, bud?" He's like, "Actually, sit down, buddy."
Let me tell you a story.
Yeah,
like
that's not it. Okay. And unfortunately, on Sunday, you know, you can tell somebody's like, "Man, I'm kind of going through this." Like, all right, word, boom. And I'm guilty of that sometimes too. So,
wow,
yeah,
okay. So why as men do we treat rest like it's a reward instead of something we're allowed to
Because
have?
rest is a reward.
Uh-oh.
Is rest not a reward?
No,
How is rest not a reward?
rest is a requirement.
It's a reward.
How so?
Because, all right, said work needs to get completed.
Okay.
Said work has to be completed.
Okay.
You don't rest until work is done. What kind of rest are y'all talking about? Y'all talking about extended break? Or y'all just talking about y'all 6 hours of sleep?
Hold on a second. So when Jesus went to rest, his work wasn't done. He rested in the middle. He rested at different periods during his ministry, right?
Yeah.
So rest. He would tell them after a certain point. He would say, "Hey, let us go to the side and rest."
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a different view, but I appreciate what you're saying. My view is this: is that rest is a requirement because life is a series of maybe sprints or marathons or whatever the case may be, right? So to your point, you got certain sprints that you've got to get through to get something done, and then you rest. But I don't think rest is something that should be put off. I think rest should always be on your to-do list. I don't think rest is something that we just figure out for some point. As a person who's been doing this for a minute, like if you don't put rest on the list, it won't happen. Until you get to a breaking point, or until you get to a point where you're so exhausted, or until you get to the point where you start making mistakes, right? And you start going, oh, I made this mistake. Now I got to go back and fix this and redo this. But if I would have rested, I could have got this right the first time.
Right. So I look at it like, keep in mind, I grew up in the country, this, that, and the other. There are certain timelines that you need plants to be planted, and there are certain timelines where you plant, and then there are timelines where you sow, right? And it's like, there's an amount of work that needs to be done up front, and it's monumental. It's like, yeah, and not, when the sun goes down, work can't get done. Ain't no light. You know what I'm saying? You get to, go to sleep. I'm not saying sleep is, but
Right.
like in those periods where you're planting,
But
it's like the rest.
But I think
Ain't no
even you see, you said extended rest, but I
Yeah.
was saying even in the illustration that you use, at some point during that point where I'm planting, for example,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop for a water break. I'm gonna hopefully stop for lunch. I'm hopefully gonna have periods of rest in there. I think, well, if I'm understanding Julian's question, what we may be doing is saying there is no water break, there is no lunch, there is no nothing. I'm just gonna keep grinding and pushing and grinding.
I rest till I'm dead.
To that
Until
point,
everything is done,
yeah.
and then I rest. And then by the time I get to a point where I can rest, my body and mind is so broken down, I can't even really rest because along the way I never did it.
Yeah,
I never took any rest.
That don't even make sense. To that point, yeah, you do need to eat. Yes, you do need to sleep. Yeah, you do need to drink water. You can't function without it.
Right.
I don't consider those rest. I consider that just like human necessity. Like, you need at least 6 hours of sleep, right? You got to get your 6 hours in. So I don't consider that rest. I consider that just like part of the work.
Right, but I still consider even in periods of work, you need to get to a point where you stop to take some rest and then pick back up your work and keep going.
Okay.
I don't think in kind of even the modern era we're in that a person should just work until, because at some point you end up with things like diminishing returns, right? So at some point the work doesn't even have the same value because you're not working at the same level of intensity and effectiveness and all that kind of stuff. So I think you bring up a very valid point in your question about the way we approach it. Like, oh, I ain't got time for rest. I got to keep working. Like, there's something honorable in burning yourself out. There's nothing honorable about
that don't make sense.
I mean, but I would argue that that's kind of a culture that we've built now, specifically around men, is that, you work yourself until you die, basically.
Work is till you can't work anymore.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, to his credit, I will say a mistake on a computer ain't the same as a mistake in the field, right? When you're working behind a tractor, this, that, and the other. So you are right. Like, yeah, you do take water breaks. Yeah, you take, certain breaks, this, that, and the other. Because otherwise, somebody going to lose a finger or a hand or whatever it may be. Right?
Well, I mean, you saying a mistake on a computer, but it just depends on the environment that you're in. That mistake on a computer can be very costly.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it can be, but I think that rest is a necessity, and we do need to take time to rest. If we treat it as a reward, I think the problem we run into is that if I don't rest, then I'm saying I'm not worthy of a reward. Like, I'm not worthy of rest at this point. So I got to keep working. Yeah. And even though my body, my mind, everything may be telling me that, hey, you really need to rest, I'm just saying I'm not worthy of the reward at this point because the work is still needing to be done.
And he acknowledged. I just said, there are certain seasons where the work is the work, and you got to complete your work. And I agree, rest is important, but usually when you're in that working season, sometimes you have to get through. But I mean, I wouldn't deny water and food and sleep. That'd be crazy.
Well, I think we can see ourselves denying ourselves, the opportunity to really rest. Not even to the point where it's, maybe not water or whatever, but we can be grinding and pushing so hard back to back where even if we're working on a job, we're coming home, we're working hard at home, trying to be present, trying to do all these things to only get back up and do the same thing all over again and continuously day in and day out without ever taking any period of true rest, whether it be a half a day or a whole day or even a few hours. We're just not doing it. I mean, we're trying to push to the next thing because we think that there's going to be rest up ahead. The problem becomes, I think, in situations like that is it can be a longer distance than we realize between where we are and that next rest stop.
Fair.
Yeah, I think I've been guilty of that quite a few times. So I mean, I feel like I'm guilty of it now, but even when I was, a band director, because I was doing so many things, I would be teaching at a middle school and then helping at the high school and then doing the university thing all in like 1 week.
Yeah.
And, my wife would be like, hey man, you need to chill. And I was like, no, I got to keep going. I'm trying to get to a specific point. Right. I got to keep going.
People depending on me.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I don't know. I don't want to use this word, but is that a toxic trait that we have?
I think it just is
workaholic.
Yeah, that's a great word.
All right.
Workaholic.
So look at it.
Great
During
word.
soccer season, every time I be like, oh man, we in soccer season. And everybody be like, oh yeah, your kid's playing soccer. But the reality is I got the ministry work, which our ministry meets twice a month. And then I have, certain events that you have to plan for, which that takes a different amount of time. Then you got your own work. That's like 9 hours a day. And then you have 2 practices, 4 practices and 3 games on the weekend. So it's like, you have to do all of this. And then, it has to get done. If you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. But it's only for a season,
No.
I was about to say,
I hear you.
Only for a season.
I hear you when you say only for a season. I think the problem is that it becomes so repetitive that even when we get into the season, when we're not doing it, we fill it with something else. Like we don't necessarily keep it. We don't necessarily keep that season as a season of rest. One of the things that as a parent, that I wish I would have done a better job at was really teaching my son how to rest, because it was something that was never taught to me. Like we taught him how to have a good work ethic, and he has an amazing work ethic. I was taught how to have a certain work ethic, and I have a great work ethic. But nobody ever taught me how to rest.
What does that mean?
Nobody ever taught me what it means to, like, what does that mean? Like, what does it look like to rest? My point exactly. How do you teach your children? How do you teach yourself? How do you model that for them about how to rest appropriately? Like, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, I don't know if your question is rhetorical, but I mean, I'm mapping this out in my brain, and I'm thinking like, because I mean, obviously, I have 2 sons. You have a son. Right? Like, and I'm thinking, just teaching them what rest looks like make them perceive it as you being lazy. Like, if you're taking rest, it's just a question.
Right.
Well,
like if you're taking rest on moments where in your heart you probably feel like you should be working, or you have a goal to complete, or you have to be taking care of, the responsibilities that you have, but you're trying to show your son what rest looks like. You're resting at a point where he may believe you should be working because you've built that mindset in them, and now you're trying to teach them what rest looks like. Well, Daddy, why you laying down? You should be up moving. You should be doing this, right? So I don't know.
Kids ain't dumb. You know what I'm saying? Like, if a kid is asking you that, they probably just being like, oh, you made me take the trash out, and you over here laying on the couch. It's
exactly.
Like, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
That's exactly what happened, son. Now go get the trash.
But that's my point.
Like,
they may be like, you got me doing this, so you lazy now.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
That's just attitude. That's all that is.
Yeah, I think it's really a matter of teaching them, what that balance looks like, and that working themselves to a point of exhaustion is not proving anything to anybody other than the reality that you can at some point get to a point where you can't do anything else. And so it's one of the things where it's like, how do you effectively learn how to work to a certain point, recognize when you need to take a rest, take a reasonable time to kind of rest and reset yourself, and then get back into whatever you're doing.
What about the whole building of endurance, though, right?
I don't think building endurance stops you from, I don't think rest stops you from building endurance, right? I don't think, I think what it teaches you is that it teaches you how to pace yourself along the way. So for example, let's say you got a big stretch of work that comes along and you're thinking, okay, I need to like the type of work you do, for example, we got a big project we're getting ready to do, right? So I know that for the next 8 weeks, it's going to be bell to bell, right? And I got to work until it's done. So in a couple of weeks before, I might need to take a couple of days, just trying to get myself together, just kind of get a little bit of rest. Because once I get in this stretch of endurance, I can't stop. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, no, I need to do all the things that I'm doing and then go into this 8 week and then maybe on the other side of that rest.
Possibly.
Well, by the time you get to the other side of that 8 weeks, you crawling across the finish line.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you maybe have did something on the front end to get a little bit of rest going into it, you can at least walk across the finish line.
Yeah, I look at it. Using your perspective, like I keep going back to the whole, like, hey, we got watermelon season, we got to get the stuff planted, watered, irrigation set up, all that good stuff, right? And I keep going back to that example because it's like you only have so much time so that you can create the best product. And if as my dad did it, we sit down, we plan it out, like we look at the field or we look at like what the field looks like, and like we be like, all right, week 1, week 2, week 3, and then you have your time. Then week 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then your crop is probably about ready, and then that whole season changes, right? And I keep looking at that like if rest is that important, then during that beginning phase, he would have had to add like, oh, this is gonna be our rest day. This is gonna be our rest day. Like, is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about something like that. Or, we're getting ready to go into this 8 weeks and we need to work through this 8 weeks. So a week or two before, I'm going to get a little bit of rest before I go into the 8 week stretch.
But you don't go through the whole 8 weeks without the sustained
depends
rest, right?
It depends on what the work is, right? So like using an example, like if it's a project you're working on or something like that, it may not be possible because if you got all kinds of things going on, right? So if I know the 8 weeks is coming up, then I'm in my idea of rest and my understanding of rest, then I get a little bit of rest before I start the 8 week stretch because I know the 8 week stretch is coming.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Versus probably what happens with most of us is we just go from one thing to the next. Yeah. So in your situation, you was using your example, you would do soccer, you would do ministry, you would do all the things, and then it's an 8 week project, and then you're gonna start that project. You didn't take a day, you didn't rest any of that, and then you do the 8 weeks straight. By the time you get to week 7, like you barely just
I do them 13 weeks, bang. Yeah, I do all 13 weeks. I plan it out at the beginning, but like I'll make some adjustments, this, that, and the other, but I don't take too many rests outside of that. I do them 13 weeks straight, and I feel like I get through it pretty gracefully.
I think a question that I'm learning to ask people now is, what is your theology of rest?
Yeah. My theology of rest would be get through your season of life, or get through your season of whatever that season looks like or whatever that season is. And then, you can reflect.
If you're talking about biblical characters, do you realize what you would be saying to some of them? What the season would be? That season would be long.
Yeah.
It would be a long
season. Yeah, that season would be long.
So I think it is good for us like to think about it, right? Yeah. In terms of what we want to do in our theology of rest. Because if you want to work until you're, 55, 60, whatever you want to do before you retire, you are going to have to pace yourself, and there's going to have to be rest in there. Because otherwise, if you don't, you're not going to make it with any type of quality of life on the other side of it.
I like sleep.
I mean, I sleep.
I love sleep.
Kind of. I sleep.
Sleep is amazing.
Nah, sleep is overrated.
Yeah, I sleep enough.
You tripping?
You know what I'm saying?
Sleep
6 hours is good.
6 hours is
good.
6 hours. I can do 6 hours
minimum. Yeah.
No, 6 hours is great, especially when you got 4 kids.
No.
Yeah.
You need 8 hours.
We be going through it, bro.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
At least 8 hours.
You get 8?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah. 8 is good.
I'm gonna definitely try to get 8.
Yeah, if I get 9, I wake up bad.
Yeah, I can't. When I get any more than 6, I struggle.
Yeah.
6 is perfect for me.
6 is good. 8 is perfect. But eight is the ideal number.
It's the ideal.
9 is too much.
But if I get like if I can't sleep longer than 6. Like my body just naturally wakes up, and then I try to go back to sleep, but it's like it's time to get moving.
Yeah, I would have stayed asleep today.
I couldn't do it. I can't do it.
Came in jumping on the bed and all this other stuff. I looked at Keisha. Keisha was like, and I was like, oh, come on. You could have got up. She right there. She laughing. She knows it's true. Cold-blooded. Cold.
All right. Is success still success if it costs you peace?
Not for me.
No.
Not for me.
Hold on.
I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if it's a maturity thing, but peace.
Around
it.
minute 12, you just said it felt like you were being chased, and it felt like
I said that was a problem.
He said that was he definitely said it was.
Yeah, it was a problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just like, hold on.
No, peace. Yeah. Mm-mm.
If it costs you peace, like the cost of success is peace.
Yeah.
I'll look at that like famous people. Like, well, Michael Jackson has that famous story where they paid everybody in the store so he could just walk through the store
like
a regular person.
Yeah.
That sounds awful. That sounds like a nightmare.
It sounds very terrible. It sounds like a very lonely
I never
life.
want to be that important to where I can't just do everyday
Normal stuff.
May that never find me.
So that's.
But I mean the average, and maybe I'm wrong, but the average famous person can't just do normal stuff.
Yeah. So I look at that like if that's what successful looks like being at the upper echelon of your category means you can't walk into a space and like actually just be in that space. Like somebody gonna come into. Like, I'm cool.
You don't want that.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. If I can't just be,
Yeah.
like whatever that is for me, if I can't just be, then that doesn't.
Yeah, that's too much. Now, but if we talking about like success in other aspects, like Pastor, like you can't come to the church and just walk wherever you want to walk, right? Like when you coming to the church.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pastor, how you doing?
Yeah.
And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just do what you want to do.
Right.
So I would look at that like, that might be a bit much, but also it's kind of what you called to do.
Yeah.
It's expected. So I don't know.
So you don't have.
I'm just trying to figure out what's the level, what bar of success are we
So I
talking
think
about?
everybody's determining.
If your success required you to be on 24/7, working 24/7, always available, always attached to whatever the work is.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I've always said that. That's why I don't have a work phone now. Cause when I'm off, I don't want to be contacted. Right, like the work has already been done. And it's like I will be back at this time tomorrow to continue wherever. Right, I'm cool with it. But if I have to have that the leash, the phone or whatever, that's too much.
That was a struggle for me in band life. You know that.
Work.
Yeah, because it was always something that you had to do, right? So like, I'll give you the second to my last year teaching. We had a game. We had game on Fridays. I let the kids go. Everybody's gone home. I've gone home. I'm good. I'm like, yeah, I'm at the crib. I get a call. What was it? Saturday morning? Friday? That night, Saturday morning. It was like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, Mr. Luke, I just want to let you know we got into a fight. How you get into a fight?
No, sir.
We dismissed like 4 or 5 hours ago.
How's that your problem if they already dismissed?
Because while they were still on campus, they were my responsibility. But the thing about it was there was nobody on campus by the time I left.
So you supposed to walk them to the perimeter of the campus and be like, go forth and prosper? Like what? That doesn't make sense.
So what made it worse was when I got back to school that Monday, now we got a big thing. Now the principal's there. I'm like, the campus was empty. They were gone home. Like when it happened, I got no information. Nobody said anything. My band room was clear. Wow. Like, so I was always on because it was either that, I was writing music, I was writing drill, I was doing something.
Wow.
So
no.
Yeah. But again, my wife was like, "Hey, when you leave, it's over."
So that was the bar for success in that position.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Okay.
Yeah. Always being available. But now on the other side, I get to talk to younger band directors of telling them, don't make the mistake I did.
Yeah.
So I guess that goes back into your conversation about me being able to pour in to people based on the information and the knowledge that I've had and the experience. So yeah.
The one thing I'm dealing with now is like to progress in my career, they want me to move to Colorado just so I can,
Move to Colorado?
Yeah. They want me to move to Colorado. They want me to pull a Dion.
Oh my
They want
God.
me to go on. They want me to go and get. But to do that will require me to like move my family, all this other stuff, right? So technically that cost of success would be to uproot my family and disrupt them and create like a loss of peace. I haven't pulled that trigger. You know what I'm saying? I haven't pulled that trigger yet, although I still am contemplating that so far. Just one of them things, man. I'm not willing to do it just yet.
You aware of this?
I was not.
Okay. So you just
No, because you don't want to do it.
you just hit the gap band on it. You just dropped the bomb on it, didn't you?
I mean, the reality is, like, if that's what I feel like we have to do, it's like we'll have a more serious conversation and be like, hey, it's like this is what I feel like we need to do, and so be it, right? But right now, Keisha doesn't want to do that, so
They not going.
Keisha does not want to do that so far, so I haven't like really entertained it as much. But if the number is right, I would consider it.
There is no number that's right.
There is no number that's right.
There's not.
I don't know if Pastor done bought these groceries for a family of 6.
There is no number that's right. Listen.
Something just popped into my head, and it's been a conversation that I've seen in a lot of places. And I just want to get you all's perspective on this because we are talking about black men. We've really kind of covered the broader sense, but I really want to hone in on black men for a second, specifically in the church. Do we sometimes put our race before our faith?
Never.
Not you specifically. I'm saying as a whole. I know you don't.
Well, I mean, Pastor said before, like, sometimes it seems like Sunday's the most like segregated day in the United States, at least. And like, I can see that, especially as like events have gone over in the last couple of months. It's like, it seems like, hey man, it's like, hey, it's like, okay, I hear you. It's like, but also like, where's the heart in that, right? Like, I feel like we are called to love. We are called to be empathetic. We are called to have a certain amount of humility, generosity. Like, there are certain tenets that like Jesus showed in his life that, I mean, if you are a believer, I feel like you would be almost like a mirror of that. Like, you'd be a reflection of it. And so sometimes I do, as of lately, I have seen bigger barriers bigger, I don't know, like people separating a little more. But it is hard. Like, I still think, or at least I will like to believe that people are trying to come from a good place. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I am with it. I've kind of been reading and kind of searching on that one a little bit. But it does feel like sometimes we serve a different God or we worship a different Jesus. Sometimes it feels that way. But also when you talk to people one-on-one, he's like, okay, like, where are you coming from with this? And, you agree to disagree. And I feel like sometimes it's a little weird when it comes to, hey, man, we got the same book. Why do we have to agree to disagree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just my perspective.
Yeah.
I think that we can mistake the idea that the way we practice our faith, the way we express ourselves is not within the context of our culture. Right? Like in biblical times, the way faith was learned and practiced was in the context of culture. And there were reasons specifically that God would say, hey, don't go over here and be with these people because their culture, their beliefs, their values are different than mine and what I have for you. But even the children of Israel had a culture. They even had a way of expressing themselves. And I think sometimes what we attempt to do or we try to do is to try to melt all that together so that it's all the same. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all the same. And that doesn't mean one is wrong and one is not, in terms of the idea of this is a cultural expression and this is a cultural expression in terms of the way it looks to practice my faith, because it's not wrong biblically. It just has a cultural context. I think what we've tried to do, especially in America more recently, is try to strip all that out. And we've tried to take verses of scripture and not apply them correctly and say things like there's no longer Jew nor Greek. That's not, Paul didn't say that there was no longer culture. Like those two have very distinct cultures in which they express themselves. And I think we've tried to make it a problem. And when I say we, I think some voices in our society have tried to make that problematic, saying that, oh, no, you worship race or you worship culture. No. Like God has allowed me, chosen me, even in the context of my culture, to be who I am. And my culture in and of itself is not sinful. Now, what I choose to do, my own personal actions, those things can be sinful.
Yeah.
And I can fully embrace who Christ is. I can fully walk in who he is. And you should be able to recognize that even if my culture is different than your culture.
Right.
I think there's been an idea to try to force it all to be the same in terms of the way it's expressed.
As of late, for a long time, I was like, yeah, we good, this, that, and the other. But as temperatures started rising, I will say, even I'm just like, woof.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree.
Especially as you have certain conversations and you're in certain rooms, you're like, man, is that really how you feel?
I think the bigger question really is what is Christianity? I think that's the bigger question because
Yeah, I remember you had that conversation.
Some of this is, I think, more of a cultural Christianity. It's not a biblical Christianity.
Yeah.
It's more Christianity that's rooted in a form of culture that people feel to be an acceptable way to present yourself. And so we've got people out here saying, oh, I'm Christian, but your words and your actions
Aren't reflecting it.
don't reflect that at all.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's more of a cultural, and I mean United States type of cultural viewpoint of Christianity that doesn't align.
Is that specifically in the West? Because
in my experience, I think it's more in the West than
it is more in the West.
than in other places. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think in the West there seems to be this cultural deal. Because people will say in the West, "Oh yeah, I'm Christian," and they're not a part of a community of faith. They've never, truly accepted Christ as their personal Savior. They don't align with Scripture. They don't study Scripture. They don't follow Scripture. But it's more of a just kind of a notional thing where it's like, "Oh yeah, I believe in Jesus," But they couldn't tell you anything about him. They don't follow him. They don't serve him. But they're convinced that they're Christian. And they're convinced that they have the ability to recognize when other people are and aren't.
It's like gonna pop the balloon.
Oh, the spiritual thing.
No, not even that. Just be like, I'm looking for somebody who's a believer, and then they come up to somebody and they be like, I'm a believer. I don't go to church. I don't go to church for real like that. But I believe God. They be like, all right, cool, come on up. Like that don't even make no sense. But anyway, so
there's a lot of people who don't look with the advent of like what do you call it? Like you can watch a sermon or you can do all this other stuff on the internet. You even gotta leave the comfort of your home. Are you part of that church?
That's true. You can become a member of a church, bedside Baptist.
I think that
Sunday.
depends on what your understanding of being a part of a church is.
I would argue that you aren't a part of that body, right? Are you consuming what that body is consuming? Yeah, but like that, it's like if you were to get sick, can't nobody come to your house.
Well, being a part of community, also means there is some fellowship. There is some
absolutely
transparency. There's also some accountability.
Yeah.
And you're not afforded that in a detached kind of situation. It's a little harder. Not saying it's impossible, but it's certainly harder.
Yeah, my assistant coach, he was talking about that. He's like, man, there's some people I want to invite to my church on the team. It's like, but my church is all the way in Arlington. I was like, why do you go to church in Arlington and you live here? Like, this is your community. He was like, yeah. So now he goes to Cornerstone. So like, just for that exact reason and that exact discourse, he was like, I got to pick a church that's closer.
Yes, sir, yeah.
It makes more sense to invite people and this, that, and the other.
You said before that, or maybe I'm misquoting it. You said that there's no such thing as a black church. You don't believe in a black church, or is there such thing as a black church?
Me?
Yeah, you. I'm just asking.
By definition, the church is the church.
Yeah,
okay.
Culturally, are there churches that are more predominantly one thing or the other? Yes.
Yeah.
In the Western culture, especially in the United States, we have black and white church for historical reasons.
Got you. Okay.
And so when we use that language, is really because it comes out of that historical framework.
Gotcha.
We have nobody to blame but the historical framework and ourselves, really.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked is because I started thinking about and just going kind of tying this into the last question, just thinking about, when we talk about black men and I don't know what the percentages look like. You probably would know better than I would, but the number of black men that are attending church, coming back to church, do you feel like black men are leading the charge of coming back to the church, or being more leaders in the church, or making sure that they're leading their women, their families, so on and so forth within the church?
I mean, I think certainly. Well, recently, looking at some statistics that I was looking at, that there has been a resurgence among millennials returning, especially millennial males returning to church, and Gen Z males. Gen X, for some reason, is not. Gen X is kind of dropping out, so that would be my generation. But millennials and Gen Z have been increasing in the numbers, and specifically males have been increasing more than females. And so we've seen, we're starting to begin to see that there are higher numbers.
But I mean, isn't that expected, right?
What is that?
That the numbers would. All right. 10 years ago, I would have been 20 something, right?
Right.
And my numbers would have been low. But as you get older, usually people do come back to whatever religion that they
Yeah. For a period of time, there was a complete drop off. Like, they weren't coming back.
Right.
So
I
was trending in that way that they weren't coming back. Like for you, like certain parts within certain age groups within a particular generation were coming, and then all of a sudden, especially with Z and part of millennials, they weren't. They were leaving completely, not returning. Now we're seeing that they are returning and coming back, those who grew up, but they're also seeing a higher number of like Gen Z who have grown up in the church and staying in the church, especially males, and more females that are not returning. And it used to be reversed, like be more females and males that wouldn't be returning.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I've always expected, I don't know. I've always been like the women's ministry should be the biggest one because ain't nothing but women in the church, this, that, and the other. But even I got to admit, like, for the most part, that's just not as true, especially at this church.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Strong 50-50 going on.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, last one. What does it look like to redefine strength? Not as carrying everything, but as knowing when to let something go.
I think you just defined it.
I did? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's both. Knowing when to carry something and knowing when to let something go. It does take a certain amount of strength to be able to let something go.
Yeah. I look at strength as kind of like endurance, perseverance. How much of sustained load can you handle for how long, and this, that, and the other. But the problem with doing that is, I know in engineering, when we testing the little bridges or something, it has to break so you can find the actual point. So, maybe just being like, maybe that's not as important. It's like, we ain't got to break the bridge to see where the bar is. Maybe this amount is good enough, and as long as we can hit that good enough, it's like that should be good.
I mean, but that's your mantra, though, right?
Power.
As long as it's good, you're good.
As good enough.
The bridge only needs to be strong enough to hold so many cars.
I'm gonna make sure his kids know that, so when they come home with them grades,
see, he's getting degrees, baby.
As long as it's good enough, it's good.
Hey,
enough.
listen, my first encounter with him was what'd you say? You failed comfortably?
Nah, I quit.
You quit.
I quit. What did I say?
I don't remember. You was something. It was something, and I was like, dude,
I'm comfortable quitting. Though. I'm a quitter. Like I be quitting stuff.
He comfortably quits. Yeah. That's what it was.
It's something like that.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
Yeah, because the reality is, like, sometimes the juice ain't worth the squeeze, right? Like, not to be mean or anything, not to air out any business or anything, but when I was in the youth director, it's like it got to the point where I was just like, and I'm done. And once I hit that point, I was like, hey man, I'm out. It's like I'm gonna be gone in 2020. I think it was December 2023 will be my last year. And then January hit, and they were like, Tyler, where you at? I was like, I told you 6 months ago. Hey. So did you think I wasn't gonna?
Oh no, wasn't no grudges on my part. I was like, hey,
I was out.
I understand completely.
I did it in soccer. I did it in band. I did it.
Yeah, that was how the conversation started.
I loved all.
He was
these
like,
things.
yeah, I'm out.
So I want the record to reflect. If I ever do that, you're gonna be the first one to stand up in church and say, hey, he said he done. He done.
The rap. You know what I'm saying?
He said he done. He done. He comfortable quitting.
You have to quit. Certain things you have to let things go so that you got the opportunity to do anything else.
All right,
that's fair. And going back to the question, you got to be strong enough to do it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's not easy to do.
Yeah, it's not.
You recognize you got to let people down, and people depending on you, this, that, and the other.
That was the hardest thing with me leaving education. Them babies. Mr. Luke, no, you can't leave. No, I'm out.
Yeah, and to this day, I still feel like I'm probably like the most like capable person to do it or whatever it may be, but that's just ego. So I was like, hey, they doing enough. They doing good enough.
There you go.
Yeah, at least I think they are. Maybe they aren't. I don't know.
Maybe they're not.
Yeah, I'm only back there once a month now.
All right, so you guys tell me your thoughts inside of the comment section about all the things that we've talked about. Don't forget, you can like, share, and subscribe. And we also want to thank Tyler for coming on out and giving us all the feedback in the world and comfortably quitting, because this is probably his last time being on here. I'm just joking.
Maybe. They might not invite me no more. I got fired.
But kid, outside of that, man, don't forget, this is not just a Sunday talk. This is an everyday walk, and we will see you all next time.